When the veteran's family adopted the strange retired police dog, they thought they were saving him. But they had no idea he was about to save them. The moment they brought him home, he moved through the house like a trained soldier, checking windows, scanning corners, memorizing exits. People thought the dog was just strange, hairless, muscular, and frightening to look at. But after the veteran's family adopted him, they quickly realized something was deeply wrong. The dog didn't behave like any animal they had ever seen. He refused to sleep unless he could see every door. He circled the house at night with silent, calculated steps. The dog never barked, never wagged his tail. He just watched. Silently, still, the family loved him. They believed he was simply traumatized. One evening, the veteran noticed scars on the dog's back, scars that didn't look like training injuries. They looked deliberate, like someone had done something to him. Concerned, he rushed the dog to the vet. The moment the vet examined an implant beneath the skin, his face drained of color. He stepped back, hands trembling, and whispered, "Get your family somewhere safe. Now, where did you get this dog?" Seconds later, he slammed an emergency button and alerted the police. Something was very, very wrong. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The shelter was unusually quiet that afternoon. The kind of silence that felt heavy, like every animal inside was waiting for something that never came. As the veteran Daniel Cole walked in with his wife and daughter, the staff greeted them warmly. But Daniel's attention drifted toward a dim corner where a solitary dog sat completely still. He didn't bark. He didn't move. He simply watched. The dog's appearance was unsettling. Smooth, dark skin stretched over a lean, muscular frame with tall, pointed ears and sharp amber eyes that seemed almost human. A small sign on his cage read, "Retired Police K9, Special Case." The shelter worker hesitated before speaking. "We don't know much about him," she admitted. "He was transferred here with incomplete records. Most families are." Intimidated by his look. Despite that warning, Daniel felt something stir in his chest. Maybe it was instinct, or maybe it was the way the dog's eyes softened the moment their gazes met. His daughter reached for Daniel's hand. "Daddy, he looks lonely." The decision was made faster than anyone expected. When they brought the dog home, they expected fear, maybe excitement, anything normal. But instead, he walked through the house like a soldier, clearing rooms, scanning corners, and silently memorizing exits. That was the first sign something was very wrong. The first week should have been an adjustment period. But the dog, whom Daniel's daughter named Shadow, never behaved like a newly adopted pet. He didn't sniff around curiously or explore with excitement. Instead, he moved with rigid precision, pausing at doorframes, studying windows, and positioning himself where he could see the entire room. It was as if he was constantly expecting an attack. Shadow avoided sunlight, slipping into darker corners whenever he could. When visitors arrived, he didn't wag his tail or sniff them politely. He assessed them with a cold, calculating stare that made people step back. Even the sound of distant metal scraping made his ears snap upward, his body tensing like he'd heard it 1,000 times before. One evening, while the family watched TV, Daniel noticed several strange scars along Shadow's spine. Not clean lines from surgery or ordinary injuries. These were sharp, deliberate markings, arranged almost symmetrically. He ran his fingers gently over them, and Shadow flinched, pulling away with a low, pained rumble. Later that night, Daniel's daughter approached her parents nervously. Shadow was making weird sounds in the hallway, she whispered. Not growling. It sounded like he was talking. Daniel brushed it off until Shadow blocked the little girl from entering her own room. He stood firm, staring under the bed, muscles coiled. When Daniel checked, nothing was there. But Shadow didn't believe that, and Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that the dog was sensing something the family couldn't see. By the end of the second week, Daniel knew something wasn't right. Shadow wasn't sick. He was trained, hyper-aware, responding to signals no ordinary dog should notice. Concerned, Daniel scheduled a full veterinary examination, hoping for answers. The moment they entered the clinic, Shadow stiffened. His eyes darted across the room, scanning every corner before allowing himself to sit. The vet, Dr. Hayes, approached slowly, offering a gentle hand. Let's take a look at you, buddy. But as soon as Dr. Hayes began the exam, his expression shifted. His brow furrowed. He checked Shadow's neck again, pressing lightly beneath the skin. This chip. This isn't standard, he murmured. Daniel leaned forward. What do you mean? Instead of answering, the vet walked to his computer, pulled up a scan, and stared at the screen in silence. His face went pale. He glanced at Daniel, then at the dog, then silently excused himself and stepped into the back room. Seconds later, Daniel heard the unmistakable tone of a controlled, urgent phone call. Shadow's ears perked. His body stiffened. When Dr. Hayes returned, he didn't continue the exam. He simply said, Daniel, don't leave. Before Daniel could question him, the clinic doors swung open. A team of officers stepped inside, moving with purpose, and Shadow growled. Not in fear, but in recognition. The officers who entered the clinic were not in standard uniforms. Their gear was darker, more tactical, and their movements too coordinated to be local police. Daniel instinctively stepped in front of his wife and daughter, while Shadow lowered into a defensive stance. Eyes locked onto the newcomers. The lead officer, a stern woman with sharp features, held up a badge. Mr. Cole, we need to speak with you, privately. Daniel's heartbeat quickened. What's this about? Her eyes shifted to Shadow. It's about him. Dr. Hayes cleared his throat, visibly shaken. The implant I found. It doesn't belong to any police department. The officer nodded. It belongs to an illegal private military contractor, one that's been under investigation for years. Daniel felt the room tilt. Are you telling me he wasn't a retired police dog? No, she replied softly. He was part of a classified training program designed for operations far more dangerous than standard K-9 units. These scars. She pointed at Shadow's back. They're from controlled conditioning. Someone wanted him to react to specific signals and devices. As if responding to her words, Shadow suddenly stiffened. One of the officers pulled a metal device from his pocket for scanning, and Shadow let out a deep guttural growl, backing away. Trembling, that reaction, the officer said, confirms his conditioning. Daniel's chest tightened. So what does this mean for him? The lead officer's voice softened. It means he escaped something terrible. something he shouldn't have survived. And now, whoever created him might want him back. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. The officer's warnings echoed in his mind, each one heavier than the last. Shadow lay near the front door, unmoving, eyes fixed on the darkness outside. It was as if he sensed something coming, something the family wasn't prepared for. At 2:17 a.m., Shadow's head shot up. A low growl vibrated through his chest. Daniel bolted upright just as Shadow sprinted to the window, barking sharply once, then again, louder, urgent. Daniel parted the curtain and froze. Figures moved through the yard, dressed in black, creeping toward the house with silent precision. They weren't burglars. They were professionals. Get the kids. Daniel shouted. His wife rushed the children into the hallway as Shadow positioned himself between them and the front door. Every muscle taut. The first intruder smashed the lock. Shadow launched forward with explosive speed, slamming into the man before he fully entered. A second intruder followed, only to be met by Daniel, who fought with the instincts of a veteran protecting his own. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance. Back up. The vet had secretly arranged, but the danger wasn't over. One attacker slipped past Daniel. Reaching for his daughter, Shadow roared a sound deeper than any the family had heard and tackled the man to the floor, saving her in the last second. The intruders were arrested within minutes, pinned to the ground under flashing lights as more officers swarmed the property. Daniel held his trembling daughter close while Shadow stood guard over the last subdued attacker, his chest rising and falling in sharp, controlled breaths. Only when the officers secured the area did Shadow finally relax, stepping back to nudge the little girl gently with his nose. The lead investigator approached Daniel, her face solemn. "You should know. Your dog wasn't just trained. He was experimented on. They pushed these animals beyond limits for missions no official agency would approve." Daniel swallowed hard. "And he escaped." She nodded. "He ran. And he survived because he refused to hurt innocents." Later at the station, paperwork was signed, statements given, and a final decision was offered. "You're his family now," the investigator said. "If you want to keep him, he's yours permanently." Daniel looked down at Shadow, who finally rested his head against Daniel's leg. The tension that had ruled his body for weeks eased, his eyes softening with something unfamiliar. Trust. "Welcome home." "Soldier," Daniel whispered. That night, for the first time, Shadow curled beside the children and slept deeply, knowing he was safe at last. Some heroes never speak, but their silence tells the greatest stories.